Let's get to our Hall of Famer first, Bill. We haven't talked to him since last July 29th, incredibly.
Well, with that, let's welcome Ray Didinger back to Philly Pressbox Radio. Ray, welcome as always. You made me laugh on Sunday night post-game live with your Rudy comment. Let's talk about that.
Well, yeah, the smiles were in short supply on Sunday night, so I felt like it was sort of I felt like I was doing a public service by giving people a little bit of a laugh there.
Yeah,
actually, the analogy, the comparison between putting Nate Sudfeld into the game in the fourth quarter and the movie Rudy was just it was just kind of right there. It was too perfect not for me to mention, so I did.
Well, Ray, I don't know where to begin, but for people watching us on video, I'm going to put up a picture, and this is what it is. It's a picture of this season, how it ended, and a photo from 3 years ago. So, Ray, I got to ask you, did they really win a Super Bowl just 3 seasons back, or did I imagine that?
Sure feels like a lot. Sure feels like a long time ago, doesn't it?
It does, man.
Certainly feels like long ago and far away that we were all at the Eakins Oval in the city, and Doug Peterson was announcing that this was the new normal. Hadn't been quite that, has it? Yeah, I mean, watching the introduction was in some ways, the Eagles winning the Super Bowl seems as far away as the Flyers Stanley Cup. I mean, those two things seem to be almost equally distant past. It's amazing how much things can change in just 3 years.
Well, Ray, we are what we are. You are what your record says you are. How are we going to get out of this thing? Where do you start? We got the quarterback situation. You got contracts. You got salary caps. You got a draft coming. You got issues all over the board.
Yeah, it's a mess. I mean, if you're an Eagles fan right now, I wish I could come on and offer you a whole lot of rays of sunshine, but I can't. They're in a real tough spot. They have a not very good team, an aging team, a team that's clearly breaking down, a team that has some leadership issues, a team that has some chemistry issues, a team that has salary cap issues, and a team that has age issues. It's all come to a head. Somehow over these next 6 months or so, they have to figure it out before they go back to training camp and start climbing their way back. Because I know Eagles fans are by nature optimistic folks, and they always think things will kind of work out. And this team has been good more than it's been bad over the last 20 years. So people have a right to expect that. But I think the reality is that this team's in trouble right now. And you look at where they are and the problems that they're facing. I'd like to sit here and tell you that it can be a quick fix, but I don't really believe that. I think they're going to right now. They are the number 4 team in the worst division in football, and I don't think it was a 1-year blip. I think that kind of reflects exactly what they are. So yeah, they have a lot of work to do.
Well, Ray, I went on record last week as saying I thought both Howie Roseman and Doug Peterson should be fired. I knew it wasn't going to happen, but I just thought they should be. I mean, because, yeah, they won a Super Bowl 3 years ago, but they've had just one player drafted over the past 5 years make the Pro Bowl, and that's the quarterback who they want to ship out of town now, apparently, although they're not saying that. Almost every wide receiver that they've drafted has been either a bust or at least a disappointment. The misses, I think, greatly outnumber the hits. So why does Howie Roseman get to keep his job?
Because Jeff Lurie owns the team.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. I mean, in a lot of organizations, there would be a change. I mean, I was, and nobody around the team, nobody even remotely close to the team, ever thought there was a chance in the world that Howie would be fired. It's just, you don't even think about that. I mean, Jeffrey, as long as Jeff owns the team, Howie's going to be part of the team. I mean, that's obvious. But I don't necessarily say he has to go, but I certainly think if you look at this roster right now, and you look at the last 6 drafts, it's obvious that something has to change in that department. The scouting, the personnel, the drafting, that has to change. And if Howie's been, and none of us quite know the real chain of command in there. I mean, who's actually been calling the shots? I mean, Joe Douglas was in there for a good portion of it. And so he clearly had input. Andy Weidel, who is still there, was part of it. The coaches are in the room. Jeff is in the room. So, who's the one that's pointing at the board and saying, we're taking him? None of us are there, so none of us know. And nobody really tells you exactly. Although what we have sort of inferred along the line is that it's Howie. Everybody kind of has their input. Everybody kind of has their say. You hope that there's a unanimous, yeah, that's our guy. Let's go get him. You hope that everybody's in agreement, and if they are, then it's easy. But if there's disagreement, then somebody's got to be the guy that breaks the tie and says, no, we're taking him. And from everything we've heard, and no one's ever denied it, sounds like that guy's Howie. And if you look at the roster the way it is now, and you look at the drafts, I mean, no team in the league has drafted worse than the Eagles have in the last 6 years. That's simple fact. So if that's the reality of it, then if you're running the organization, you got to say, we got to change. And if Howie's going to stay, and we all accept the fact that Howie's going to stay, then you got to somehow redefine his role so that if he's indeed been the guy picking the players, that there's other people in there that can do it for him. If just look, I mean, just this past week in Denver, the Denver Broncos are now a team. It's hard to believe in the NFL that the Denver Broncos are irrelevant, but they have been irrelevant now for about 4 or 5 years. I mean, you don't even think about the Broncos anymore. And it used to be you never thought about having the playoffs without them. Well, now they're an irrelevancy. And John Elway has been the president and basically head of football operations there for several years. And this week, John Elway said, you know what? I got to go get a general manager, because I've been the guy picking the players. I've been the guy running things around here, and we haven't sniffed the playoffs in 5 years. So I'm stepping away. And I'm going to go hire a general manager. We're going to rebuild our personnel department. Seems to me that if John Elway can step away from running the draft, Howie Roseman can. Okay, if John Elway is willing to say, no, this isn't for me, I'm going to go get somebody who's really good at this. If John Elway is willing to do that, I mean, maybe it's time that Howie does the same thing.
Hey, Ray, I wanted to ask you about the offensive line. You mentioned health issues and you mentioned getting old, but they have Mailata and Samala and Kelsey and Brooks and Johnson. If they're healthy, that's a pretty good offensive line. I think they're getting little old. Carson Wentz got just battered all season long, and I've never seen an offensive line where they changed them every week of the season. Do you stay away from that in the draft and hope you can get these guys back together and go get skill position players like wide receivers that don't seem to ever be able to get open either? So where do you start?
I almost think you have so many holes and so many weaknesses that you just pick the best player. Yeah, I'm just, on your board, whoever's the highest graded player you got, take him, because I guarantee you, he can play. I mean, you have holes everywhere. You could draft anybody anywhere, and if he's a good player, he can play on this team because you need him. The secondary clearly needs help. They don't have a linebacker. Okay, so I mean, any linebacker you pick can start for this team because right now they don't have any.
Although Singleton came on, I like Alex Singleton a bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's okay.
It's okay.
You know, I'm talking about a linebacker who's an impact guy.
Right.
You know, I'm talking about a linebacker who makes plays to change games. You know, Singleton's, you know, he's a good scrappy kid who, you know, is a good special teams player. You know, he'll make 12 tackles a game. The only trouble is they're 8 yards down the field. You know, I mean, you need guys at that position. And you look around, watch the teams this weekend, the teams that are playing. Look at the linebackers that are going to be playing this weekend. They're game changers. They're guys that make plays to change games. That's what this team has. I mean, they have this policy that we don't need that. Well, look, the good teams have them. And maybe it's time that you rethink the idea that linebackers don't matter. The offensive line, you know, I just wonder about. You know, Brooks and Lane Johnson a couple years ago were the best right side of the offensive line in all of football. Right now, they're older guys that clearly are breaking down. And I don't know that, you know, I mean, it's all well and good to say, well, get them back this year, and if they stay healthy, I don't know that you can count on that anymore. You know, they're not going anywhere. I mean, they're under contract, but can you really count on them coming back and being the Brooks and Johnson of 2017? I don't know. There seems to be a very strong feeling that Kelsey is not coming back, that this is it for him. Wouldn't shock me. He's 33, just had a baby. The guy's got, I mean, the guy could walk off the football field now and step into any TV or radio studio in America and have a job in 5 minutes. So, I mean, he always goes through this self-evaluation at the end of the season. Do I really want to keep putting myself through this, which I fully understand. I kind of have a feeling that this might be the year that he just says, I think I've had it. If he does, that is a huge loss. And then you got Sayamalu, he's Sayamalu. And then at left tackle, I think the one guy that really you might have something is Mailata. I think he actually might be a pretty decent player. He's not there yet. I mean, he needs more work. But I think he could be either a left or a right tackle in this league. I think he could do it. I mean, he's made enough progress and he's played well enough when he's had the chance to play this year that I think you might have something in him. Dillard, I don't know. We haven't seen that much of him. And frankly, what was seen hasn't been all that promising. But I mean, he's a first-round pick. He's still under contract. He'll get an opportunity. But I worry about. I worry about if is Kelsey coming back. I think it's no better than 50-50. And Brooks and Johnson will be part of this. I mean, they're coming back, but I don't know that they're at a point in their career where you can count on them. You know, it'd be great if they could, but I just don't know if you can count on them.
Right. We are 13 or 14 minutes in. We haven't even talked about the quarterback mess yet. Carson Wentz, of course, did not have a good year, lost his job late in the season. Don't know if he's coming back. He hasn't spoken yet, which kind of leads me to believe that he really does want to trade out of town. How do you see this playing out? Can Carson Wentz stick around and be fixed? Will they compete for the job? How's this all going to play out?
I don't know. Very mixed messages right now. I mean, you have Doug coming out and saying, I want to work with Carson Wentz. We want to fix him. We want to get him back to being the Carson Wentz what he was, 2017, 2018. I mean, Doug keeps talking about bringing him back. There's no problem between the two of us, no issues. So that's Doug's version of it. You have these reports now that over a period of 2 weeks that have come out, that Carson Wentz wants out, that he feels that his relationship with the coaching staff is fractured. Don't really understand that, but okay, that's what he says. He himself has not spoken, was given the opportunity on Monday's clear out day at the locker room. The press said, can we talk to him? The team's PR guy went to him. He said no. So to me, if he wanted to shoot down these reports that he wants out, he had ample opportunity to do it. I mean, those reports are out there for 2 weeks, and all he would have had to do, he didn't have to do a press conference, just send out a tweet and say, I don't know where this stuff's coming from. No, I'm a Philadelphia Eagle. I'm going to come back and I'm going to win this job, and you watch me. If he wanted to say it, he could have gotten it out there. if he wanted to do a press conference and go on camera and shoot it down, he could have on Monday. Hasn't done any of that. So that tells me, yeah, I think it's true. I think he and his people have decided I'd be better off getting a fresh, clean start elsewhere. If it were me, if I were calling the shots down there, I would bring him back. I would bring him back, and I'd have him compete with Ertz next summer, and may the best man win. I mean, I always thought that pro football was about competition and guys fighting for jobs. And I've always been an old-fashioned concept here, but I always thought competition made people better. And I would give, I know that after what he went through this year, that Wentz is going to be incredibly motivated this offseason to come back next year and prove everybody wrong. Well, if he's going to prove that somewhere, I'd rather have him prove it here than in Indianapolis. So I wouldn't be in any great rush to move him on because, frankly, I mean, Jalen Hurts, we got 4 games. You know, there's been good, but it's not so good, okay? I'm going to be honest about it. So everybody seems prepared to just anoint him as number one and, okay, he's our guy. I don't know. I'm not so sure I'm there yet. I would rather bring Wentz back, bring Ertz in, let him fight it out in training camp next year, and hopefully you come by the September rolls around, you got yourself a quarterback. But it seems to me, the sense of it that I get, as I said, that'll be my preference to bring him back and let them compete. But I'm getting the feeling that he would rather not be here, and I think the organization has decided, you know what, I think we're moving on. You know, the contract is a killer. The dead money against the salary cap is brutal. But I think they're prepared to work around that, just bite the bullet for a year and go in another direction. I think that's how it's going to play out.
Well, Ray, and it's funny, that's exactly where I was going to go with the whole Hurts situation. I don't feel like he played any better than Wentz did, less his legs. You know, his legs saved him a little bit where Wentz was taking sacks. Hurts was able to escape a little bit and create a little bit of something. He wasn't good, and actually, I'm a Hurts fan from college, and I'm a Wentz fan from the Eagles too. But I'm not ready to give Hurts anything. I don't think if we started camp today, I couldn't say he'd be my starter.
No, but I think that there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people in the city, and I think there are a lot of people in the building down there that are ready to do that. You know, it concerns me. Look, he played 4.5 games. He won 1 of them. It concerns me that with each progressive week, it seemed like he got worse. Mm-hmm. That the more teams had film on him, the more teams that could prepare for him, that he wasn't a mystery, the more of him that was out there, it seems like did a better job of playing against him, and it got harder for him to do what he was doing. Well, if you're already seeing that in 4 weeks, what are you going to get in the whole season? Okay. I liked him in college. I did. He won a ton of games, and he has some ability. He can certainly move around, and he does have a good awareness in the pocket. He does feel things around him, but I think he's got a long way to go as a passer. I mean, I felt that in college, and I think you saw that again this year. He completed 52% of his passes in a league where great quarterbacks are completing 70. So, I think there's something there. But I think it's very unpolished and still pretty raw. And the idea that this organization seems so willing to just give him the job at the start of next season, I don't know. I mean, I know they want that to be the case. I'm just not so sure that's the reality.
Hey, Ray, had Zach Ertz not gotten injured this year, he would have surpassed Harold Carmichael atop the list of most receptions by an Eagle. We were all pretty much sure that Ertz will not be back next year. What is Zach Ertz's legacy in Philadelphia?
I just did a piece that's going to be on the NBC website in a couple of days, which was kind of a farewell to Zach Ertz. Because I think that the image of him sitting on the bench alone at the end of the game was maybe the single image I'm going to take away from this awful year. I mean, there's very little about this year that I want to remember. Basically nothing almost. Yeah. But that image of him sitting there alone in the rain in that empty stadium, alone with his thoughts, I thought that was very poignant. And I think it it was clear this was a guy who wasn't yet ready to let go. And I think that's, in a league where there's a whole mercenary mentality in this league. The guys jump from team to team to team to team and don't think twice about it. Okay, I'll play for you this year, but I'll play for him next year. There aren't many guys that make that kind of emotional investment in a team, in a community, and he did. And he did. And I know because I did a number of charity things with him this year, and I saw the way he connected with people. He's a good dude. He really is. And this idea that people criticize him that he wasn't tough. He didn't get yards after the catch. Look, this is a guy that last year when they were going to the playoffs had a lacerated kidney and a cracked rib, and he put a pad on it, got shot up, and went out and played. That's tough enough for me.
Right.
If you look at his production over time, you're quite right, Chad. If he had not gotten injured this year, he would have surpassed Harold Carmichael and been the all-time leading receiver on this team. But still, if you look back, he still has the record for catches by a tight end, 116. It's the record for most receptions in a season by an Eagle. And if you look back over the 7 biggest receiving games in the history of the franchise, Zach Ertz has 4 of those 7, the top receiving performances. So, he was not just a good player, he was a great player for this team for a long time. And more than just that, I think he was a great representative for the team and the community. So, this team needs more Zach Ertz, not less. And the sight of him just sort of letting that all sink in Sunday night and then walking off the field in that empty stadium, that was, told you a lot about Zach Ertz. And, I agree with you guys. And you saw at his press conference the next day when he broke down talking about Philadelphia and there's no place I'd rather play. I believe that.
Mm-hmm.
For some guys, you get the feeling, oh, he's just saying that. I know Zach Ertz well enough to know that he believes that. And look, he wants to keep playing, but he would rather, he likes football, but he loves being an Eagle. And the fact that he's going to play somewhere else next year, I wish him well. I hope he plays several more years and, has great success, but I'm going to miss not having him here in Philadelphia.
Well, Ray, speaking of wishing well, it looks like we're going to be wishing Jim Schwartz well. Where do they go defensively? That goes back to that linebacker discussion earlier. Now maybe we have a coordinator that actually believes they need linebackers. If you get somebody in with a completely different mentality, now you have to retool that defense. Mm-hmm. Where are they going to go? Any crystal ball on where they might find their DC?
NBC Sports Philadelphia, Seth Joyner, give him a call. Michael Barkamp threw it out at the end of the postgame show on Sunday. He said he was like half joking, but he said, Seth Joyner, if the Eagles called you up and offered you a job as a coach, would you take it? He said, yep. So I don't know if you take him out of the studio and you make him the DC, but I would certainly hire him and make him the linebacker coach. Because one of the things that, look, Schwartz, it was time for Schwartz to go. I don't think there's any question about that. The last 6 games this year, quarterbacks completed over 70% of their passes. And their defense, which had been pretty good against the run, was very porous against the run this year. So defensively, they just weren't much. And they needed a new philosophy. I thought his approach had gotten stale. But one of the things that I feel about their defense is it doesn't have an identity. It doesn't have a personality. You think about the Jim Johnson defenses, they had it. The Buddy Ryan defenses, they had it. Marion Campbell's defenses, Bill Berge, those guys. They brought it every Sunday. And, Schwartz's defenses, even when they played well, you never got the feeling that this team was winning because of its defense. They were good enough to win some games, but they were never a team where you thought that the defense could win you a game. Or that they could, or that the other team came into the stadium and they were worried about playing the Eagles defense. They don't have those kinds of players. They don't have that kind of identity or personality. Seth Joyner would bring it. Now, you're talking about him becoming a linebacker coach for a team that has no linebackers. I think that could be a problem. But I think, if you were to commit to him, and I'm quite serious when I say this, I think he could be a very good coach. I really do. I mean, I've sat next to him now for years and watched games with him, and I see how keen his observations are and how quickly he picks up on things and how he can immediately dissect and synthesize what he's seen and say, that's not right. They have to do this, this, and this. And he's 100% correct. And he does it on the fly. He's sharp. He was a great player, but he also thinks the game really well. He could do it. I mean, I have no doubt in my mind that he could do it. But one of the things is, I'm sure knowing Seth, who tells you exactly what he thinks every minute of the day, that he would go in and say, look, you want to hire me as a linebacker, coach, that's fine. But you got to let me go out and get me some players. Okay. I'm not going in next year with Duke Riley. I'm not going in next year with my mic is TJ Edwards. Sorry. No, I can be a good coach, but I need something to work with. He would demand that kind of thing. Are they prepared to deal with that? I don't know. But in terms of Schwartz, I kind of thought, look, there's got to be changes on the coaching staff. I didn't think Doug would be one of them. They need to make some changes on the offensive side. But I certainly thought one of the guys that was going to go was Jim Schwartz, and I kind of think it was time.
Ray, speaking of time, we are like pretty much out of time. We've kept you longer than usual, or longer than we had expected anyway. But I had about 15 more questions for you. So how about I do this? I put you in a 2-minute drill. I give you 4 questions. You get about 15 seconds to answer each one, okay?
Okay.
All right, here we go. Number 1, how disappointed are you that Eric Allen is not a finalist for the Hall of Fame?
Very. Although I'm happy that he's in the conversation now. He made the ballot. He was in the discussion. So, his name will come up again. At least he's in the room now. I think, and I don't have any doubt that it'll stay in the room. And I think certainly he belongs, and I think he will get there.
Number 2, I know you've been working on a book. I think it's finished. When's your next book coming out?
It will be coming out the current schedule is April. It's done. It's written. It's in the hands of the editors, and it should be out in April, May, right around that. It's called Finished Business.
It's your 50 years covering the Eagles, right?
It's my 50 years of just covering sport.
There you go. Number 3, Sixers. Are you optimistic with what you've seen so far from Doc Rivers' team?
Very much so. Very much so. And I think that Daryl Morey is part of that too. I mean, we're all talking about Doc, who's a terrific coach and certainly a big step up from what they had before. But I think having Morey running the operation, picking the players, I think they've got this thing heading in the right direction. And right now they got the best record in the NBA. Yeah, and so there'll be some bumps in the road.
Sure.
But I mean, what you see is the team is coming together now, and it looks to me like a team that when they get to the playoffs might actually be able to do something.
And Ray, this is not really a question, but I just want to mention it's pretty cool to see you doing this Zoom type thing, because I think I've heard you describe yourself as the poster boy for low-tech living. Is that right?
That would be correct. and if anything, it's an understatement. I know nothing about any of this stuff. I don't have the faintest idea how it works. The only reason I'm doing this is my wife hooked the whole thing up. She does it all. And then after it's all set up and ready to go, she says, okay, go sit in the chair. Here I am. So when I wrap up with you guys, I'll call to her. She'll come in and close out the window, and I'll go about my life. But if it were up to me, you would have a blank screen there.
Oh man, that's great.
Hey, Ray, I have one more question that I just have to ask you if we have another minute. And I know your opinion on these guys when we got them. JJ Arcega-Whiteside, Jalen Reagor. Did they miss on both these guys, and how did that happen? I know you were high on both of them.
No, I wasn't high on Reagor. I thought you liked him.
No, he liked Arcega-Whiteside.
I was not a Jalen Reagor guy. Okay. Mark Eckel, your buddy, he liked him. He did. We had a big disagreement on that. I was a Jefferson guy all the way. I didn't like Reagor, frankly. And when they picked him, I was like, well, oh no. Because I didn't talk to anybody, any NFL guy in the league that had him as a first round pick. I mean, the highest anybody had him was the second round. I had him as a 3. Some guys had him as a 4. So
Wow.
I thought they way overdrafted him. Arcega-Whiteside, yeah, I missed that same as everybody else did. I saw him play a lot at Stanford, and he was a good player. He was a really good college player. But at this point, this is what he is. I don't think there's going to be any epiphany here. I don't think he's going to change. I think he's a bust. Rager, to me, looks like he's just sort of a guy, whereas if they had drafted Jefferson, they would have had a star. And I think if you saw him play at LSU, you knew he was. I kind of feel the same way about Smith right now. I think that kid's a star. But they had, how you can be looking for a receiver and have Jalen Rager and Justin Jefferson up on the screen, and you take Rager. If you're an organization that makes that decision and you're Jeff Lurie, you got to say, you know what? No, no, we got to change. If you guys can swing and miss that badly on a choice that's that obvious, I got to get new eyes in here. And I'm hoping that they do that this year, because they need to get better players. We're talking about Jim Schwartz and the coaches. Look, they need good coaches, but the coaches need players. And right now, they need to get better players, and that starts with scouting.
Absolutely. All right, Ray. Well, we have taken up all your time and extra. We appreciate you coming by. As always, it's great.
My pleasure. Always enjoy visiting with you guys.
All right,
Thanks,
Ray.
Ray.
Thanks.
Take care.
Now. Bye-bye.